To understand why shotguns are used in warfare, we have to go back to the very origins of the idea, long before rifles dominated the battlefield, to a time when cannons fired grape shot and canister shot that unleashed dozens of small projectiles at once, devastating massed infantry at close range and forming the earliest inspiration for what would eventually become shotgun. This concept evolved into weapons like the blunderbuss, a short, wide-bore firearm loaded with mixed projectiles and a heavy powder charge designed to guarantee hits in cramped, chaotic close-quarters fighting, whether during naval boarding actions or street-level combat. But as muskets and rifles improved with better ammunition, rifle barrels, and far greater accuracy and range, shotguns faded from mainstream military use and were relegated mostly to hunting and civilian life, until World War I resurrected them in a way no one expected. Trench warfare turned long-range bolt-action rifles into awkward, slow, and practically useless tools inside narrow mud-filled trenches where the enemy was often only meters away and close-quarters fighting ruled the battlefield. Here, shotguns suddenly made perfect sense, and the United States adapted the Winchester Model 1897 pump-action shotgun, originally tested in the jungles of the Philippines, where U.S. forces had learned how brutally effective it was against fast-charging Moro warriors, to suit trench combat by shortening the barrel, adding a metal heat shield, using brass shells, and fitting an M1917 bayonet. The shotgun's slam-fire feature, which allowed it to fire instantly with each pump as long as the trigger was held, turned it into a fearsome close-range weapon that could fill a narrow trench with buckshot in seconds, prompting German forces to file a formal protest calling it inhumane, even though they themselves used flamethrowers and chemical gas. Despite limited numbers, trench shotguns proved so effective that they significantly influenced close-range fighting, and although they were moved back to secondary roles after the war, they returned again in World War II, when Pacific Island jungles forced U.S. troops into point-blank combat against determined Japanese defenders. Marines found that shotguns paired with flamethrowers were among the best tools for clearing caves, bunkers, and ambush points. And even in Europe, they occasionally appeared in brutal house-to-house urban fighting. Korea and Vietnam continued this tradition, where shotguns like the Ithaca 37 helped tank crews defend against close-range infantry attacks in thick vegetation, and Beehive Flechette rounds effectively turned tank cannons into enormous shotguns that unleashed thousands of steel darts with terrifying effect. After the jungle wars ended, shotguns shifted to police, breaching, and special forces roles, with weapons like the Mossberg 500 and Benelli M4 becoming standards for close-quarters entry, using breaching rounds to blow locks at point-blank range and non-lethal rounds like beanbags for crowd control, while compact underbarrel shotguns provided soldiers with a life-saving backup if their rifle failed during room clearing. But the most shocking transformation came in the modern era, when nobody anticipated that the biggest threat on the battlefield would become cheap FPV and UAV drones capable of delivering explosives with pinpoint precision, changing warfare entirely, especially visible today in Ukraine. Soldiers found that trying to shoot down fast-moving drones with rifles was extremely difficult, so shotguns unexpectedly became essential once again, as buckshot or birdshot dramatically increased the chances of hitting a drone in the few seconds available before impact. This led to new experimental ammunition like Skynet 12-gauge net-firing shells tested by the U.S. Air Force, releasing a wide mesh that entangles rotors at far greater distances than normal buckshot, while Russia created its own short-range Kevlar mesh cartridges. Both sides in Ukraine now routinely assign at least one shotgun per infantry squad and mount them on vehicles for anti-drone defense. And some forces have even built drone-mounted shotguns and multi-barrel aerial systems designed specifically to hunt other drones, turning the sky into a battlefield straight out of science fiction. Despite a century of technological change, the shotgun survives because its unique ability to deliver a wide spread of projectiles at close range remains unmatched, allowing a weapon that once served as a trench broom, then a jungle tool, then a breaching device, to re-emerge in the drone age as an indispensable last-line defense for modern soldiers facing threats its original creators could never have imagined.